Let me guess, you're working more hours, seeing more patients, yet your income has plateaued. You're a great practitioner. You're working hard, you're exhausted, and you're thinking to yourself, is this as good as it gets? Well, here's the truth, is that you cannot scale your practice by working harder. The only way you can scale it is by doing what I'm about to show you in this video. I'm gonna show you 4 ways to scale your practice without burning out. And I want you to think about it in this context. If I want more coffee in this coffee mug, there's only a point to which I could put the coffee in. Beyond that, I have to increase the size of the cup to receive more coffee. And so the thing that we're going to talk about today is not about filling your practice with more patients. Why would you do that when your calendar is slammed? The key to creating more success in your business is by increasing capacity, because success without freedom isn't success, it's a trap. I'm gonna show you how to get out of that trap today so you can actually enjoy your practice, have your life back, and scale your practice. My name is Yuri Elkaim. I'm the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, New York Times bestselling author, leading business mentor for health practitioners, and for the past 20 years, I've been helping thousands of your colleagues build high 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses without the guesswork or the grind. And today I'm gonna walk you through the 4 things you need to do to scale your practice, and we'll go from worst to first, so you're gonna wanna stick around for this. But as a starting point, let's begin with a little bit of context. I call this model you see on the screen here the practice freedom matrix. We have 2 things. We have revenue here, and we have time down here. So when you have a lot of time and not as much revenue, well, you have something that we can call a hobby. I'm not assuming that's you if you're watching this video. You might be a little bit more on the 2 other sides I'm about to show you. Maybe you are low on time and you're low in revenue. And that's a shitty place to be because it feels like you're always in survival. It's just nonstop. Maybe you're charging not enough, maybe you're working too much. I don't know. Most likely, if your revenue is good, let's call it 30 to 50K a month, but you have no time. Well, right here, you might be feeling success trapped. This is a very common place that most practitioners who come to us for help are looking to escape. And finally, on the top right, if you have a lot of revenue and a lot of time, we have freedom and scale. When I talk about scale, I mean growth, but you can't scale something if it's not sustainable. That's why one-on-one work is not scalable, because it's not sustainable beyond a certain point. If you're watching this video today, I'm going to assume you're most likely in this upper left quadrant, which we call success trapped. Revenue's good, time not so much. We're going to look at 4 ways specifically how to solve that today. And we're going to do that by walking through this pyramid of the 4 things that I'm going to recommend. And we're going to go from worst to first. So the first thing that a lot of practitioners do, I think mistakenly, is they look at more space. So if you have a 1,000 square foot clinic and you're completely maxed out, like you've got no more space, you have no more office space, you can't put another room in there, it's like at capacity, most practitioners are like, cool, like let's just go open up a second location. That's fine, okay? So like there comes a time and place where that might be a consideration, but I'm going to propose some better things to start with as we go through this video. So why I'm not a huge fan of opening up a new location or breaking down walls and building more stuff is, number one, it's huge overhead, right? You're going to go rent or buy more space. That's just massive amounts of overhead. You're going to take on more debt, most likely, to make that happen. There are better ways to start. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that eventually if you want to, but as a starting point, I think it's a big mistake. We're putting the cart before the horse. More complexity, more debt, more overhead, more stress. It's not necessary. What I would like to consider first before we ever get there is, do I have a several month waiting list? Is every square foot in my current practice fully leveraged and utilized? And if it is, cool. I would still start with the next 3 things before ever considering opening up a second location, just for the very reasons I mentioned. So that's the first thing. I'm not a huge fan of it as a starting point. Second, so now we're starting to look at, okay, this is a little bit better of a place to start, is more staff. Now, I know most of us don't want to manage people. We don't want to deal with all this stuff. But I'll tell you, having run businesses in this space for the past 20 plus years now, I've hired hundreds of amazing people, and I've worked with people that are also not so amazing. Great people are the single most important asset in your business, and quite honestly, in your life. But the wrong people can suck the energy out of the room. So when we're looking at staff, it's massively important to learn how to hire, onboard, train, and retain people. Because if you don't, if you're just expecting to hire someone or like, you go do this stuff, you will completely destroy your business and your reputation, your brands, and the experience your patients had with you. It's not good. One of the most important things that we do with our clients at a higher level is we help them with their culture code. What are your core values? What are your guiding principles? What's your philosophy of your brand? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? Like, so when you put messages out there to hire people, they're instantly attracted to what you stand for. This is the single most important thing to do to start, because if you hire people without a culture code in place, then you're ultimately going to be hiring the wrong people. At some point, they're going to figure some stuff out. Once they're in, they're like, actually, I don't jive with this. No, like you want to know, like you want them to know that ahead of time. So the staffing piece is really, really important. I'm not going to get into the culture code stuff here. Again, if this is something you want help with, probably a link below. You can learn more about our scalable practice system, which is what we help practitioners with at this level. Anyways, I do want to talk about the two things on the staffing side, personnel-wise, which I do think are important to consider. So culture code aside for a second, there's two types of people mostly that you're going to be hiring: operational and admin, and actually execution. So operational admin, think of it like office manager, assistant stuff, like that you're doing right now, charting, admin, all sorts of nonsense that is completely wasting your time. You didn't go to school for 5, 10, 15, 20 years to spend time in admin. It's a complete waste of your time. I'm not saying it's a worthless activity, but for you as the practitioner whose gift is not doing that stuff, it's important to find people who can support you on that. So those are really important hires. And quite honestly, those are, if you do not currently have one or two people supporting you on the ops and admin side, you have to start there. Because I would venture to say that you're spending, let's say 50 hours a week working, you're not spending 50 hours a week in patient visits. It might be 30 and then 20 hours of like stuff that charting, admin, etc. If you took those 20 hours of charting and admin and you put it into patient visits, let's say you charge $250 an hour, that's a massive increase in your business just for the same amount of time you're working. So this is how business owners think about this whole situation, right? It's arbitrage. It's like, I'm going to hire this person. I'm going to give up a little bit of profit initially to hire someone. I'm going to onboard them with a little bit of my time initially, but then they're going to buy me back more time, which I can then use that time on higher value activities like seeing patients or doing some of the stuff I'm about to show you in this video. So we have, I'll just make a note on the right here. We have ops and admin. And then the second is actual, I'll just call this execution. It's probably not the right word, but patient facing, right? Practitioner, et cetera. So the second level is, okay, well, maybe you want to hire an assistant practitioner, right? So let's say you're a chiropractor, you're slammed, you want to deal with more patients because you have a waiting list and people requesting your awesomeness. And you're like, I have no time in my calendar, but you could see my assistant Joe, right? Or this other chiropractor in the office, Joe. You can have someone rent space from you, which is what some clinics do. So they rent the room, whatever the fixed rate is, and they have their own book of business. That's one way of doing it. The other way is they're just part of your team and you do a rev share, right? So you feed them patients. They're not renting the space. They use the space, but they rev share with you. So if they make whatever, $100 an hour, 60 goes to them, 40 goes to you, 70, 30, 60, 40, whatever the split is, right? So those are two ways of looking at it. Staff, to a certain extent, is dependent upon space in the traditional sense. But I'm going to show you as we go through this how you can have staff to take care of things even if you have a fixed space without opening up new locations. And that leads me to point numero tres, which is this: products. So this is really straightforward. Products in this context, I'm just going to use them as physical products like supplements, or if you're a chiropractor or physio, pillows, orthotics, braces, like not tease braces, but like knee braces, ankle braces, stuff like that. If you're going to do the product thing, you have to make sure you've got margins, right? There's no sense in like having product in your clinic if you're not making anything on that. At the same time, you also have to be cognizant of like, if this person could buy the same thing on Amazon or somewhere else for the same price, then number one, you shouldn't be selling it. Two, definitely not at a premium, right? You have to have something that's unique that they can't get elsewhere. If you're a practitioner like a naturopath or nutritionist, et cetera, maybe you have a supplement line that you've white labeled. And as an example, in my previous business, we had custom formulated supplements. So we did greens powders. We had a couple of different things we custom built that we had white labeled from a very reputable industry leader in the practitioner supplementation space. In that case, we didn't have to worry about supply chain. It was like done, like good stuff. And we took, I think it was like a 30 to 40% margin on that. So we bought it at a lower price than what someone would be able to buy elsewhere. And we sold it at retail. That's the easiest way to do this. We have clients like one of our clients, Nicole, who's a naturopath. This is exactly what she does. She's built a 6-figure additional income stream in her practice over a yearly basis just based on the supplements that she recommends for her clients, for her patients. So if you've got patients, like think to yourself, what are they asking me for, right? Are they asking me for like what recommended fish oil do I recommend? Or like what's the probiotic I recommend? Just because they're asking those questions doesn't mean you have to have a whole supplement line. Just be clear on this, because you have to make sure this actually makes fiscal, financial sense for your business. And operationally, it's very simple. Do not get into a situation where you have boatloads of inventory and you have to outlay a huge amount of cash just to have some supplements on site, right? Like you have to be very judicious about how you approach this. But if it makes sense, then it's a great way to leverage your business. Because now, like for the same number of patients, for the same amount of time you work, even with no more space, even with no more staff, you make more money, right? So I'm a huge fan of products. My background was I was working one-on-one 12 hours a day, right, for 7 years. I came online in 2005. The first thing that I did was I actually productized my service. And that's what I want to talk about as my next point here. It's not about actually selling a physical product like a supplement or an orthotic. It's about, number 4, some type of hybrid care. Let me talk about this. So I'll just go back to my story. So when I came online in 2005, I had a client who I was working with, and he said, why don't you put your voice on tape? And I thought, what the heck are you talking about? This is just when the first iPod had come out. So as I started to think about it, I was like, hold on, if I'm working with clients in person and I'm putting them through like a conditioning program to get in better shape, what if I recorded that and just walked them through that in a recording? And that's what I did. Is I thought to myself, what's the first thing I would say? Okay, we're going to start the workout. We're going to do 5 minutes and jogging on the spots and jumping jacks. And then we're going to get into this and that. And that was how I built one of my first products in my online health business back in 2005 was I productized my knowledge. I eventually was able to sell that independent of my in-person clients. And I had people from all around the world benefiting from this workout program. And I thought this was amazing. That's where this all started in terms of thinking about this hybridized care. And over the past 20 years, this is what I've been doing. And this is what we've been doing with thousands of practitioners, is helping them turn their knowledge into programs and assets that their clients and patients can benefit from, even outside of their one-on-one time. Because here's the problem. In a service-based business, you have money and you have time. And there's always a point of what I call right here, the capacity ceiling. This is the point beyond which you have no more time in a day, right? You have no more time. You work 14 hours a day, whatever it is. That's the most you can do. You got to sleep. You have to see your family. But with that is a limit on your income. So right now you might be there. You might be earning $50K a month and you're like, I have no more time, but I still want to scale. I'm not making the money that I want to keep and I'm working way too much. What I'm sharing with you here is essentially allowing you to do this. We're getting off this linear curve and we're starting to bend time. And here's the cool thing is you can actually make way more with less of your time. So let me show you how we do this. And I'll give you an example. So one of our clients, Doug, is an amazing chiropractor, super successful practice in New York. But when I say successful, I mean success trapped. 60 hours a week, high overhead. He's got to be hitting 50 to 60K a month just to like keep the ship afloat. It's not a lot of fun, high stress. Maybe you can relate. So he was at my place in Mexico a couple months ago. We had a retreat there with a bunch of our clients. And I went for a walk with him one morning and I said, hey man, like, let's just play this out. What's one thing you can do with your eyes closed for patients, like in terms of conditions or problems that they come to see you for? And right away, he's like, well, frozen shoulder. I was like, awesome. So let me ask you this. If I were in an elevator with you for 30 seconds and I said, hey, Dr. Doug, I have a frozen shoulder. What would you recommend I do for that? What's one thing? And he said X. And then I said, I'm like, that's cool. That becomes the foundation of what we're talking about here. Because in terms of hybridized care, what we can build is a curriculum. A curriculum, think about it this way. So we have this process, we call it a one-by-one method. The example I just gave you was, I was in an elevator theoretically with him and I asked him one piece of advice. And that becomes the one thing I do in week 1. So if I'm a patient, the only thing I'm doing in the first week outside of my time with the practitioner as the patient is the one thing he recommended. And then I said, awesome. So what would be like after I'm doing this for a week and I'm going to continue building like that foundation, I'm going to continue doing that thing. What's the second thing I would do next week? And he says this. I'm like, great. So that's that. We got this. And this is called skill or habit stacking. This is how you create transformational change in your patients without you being with them all the time. So Right now, he might see someone for frozen shoulder 3 times a week. They come in, he does some soft tissue work, some manipulation, whatever, but it's transactional. They get better when they're with him. He gets paid when he's with them. That is a completely broken model, and it's exactly why we hit the capacity ceiling, because it's a linear model. Time, money, that's it. What we're doing instead here is you're saying, let's break the mold and let's get off the curve and let's bend time. So with this type of curriculum, you have a patient that comes in 3 times a week in this example. Now, instead of that, you're saying, hey, Mr. Patient, I have actually built out for a frozen shoulder that you have an 8-week protocol, an 8-week curriculum. Every single week, you're going to do one thing that's going to take you a few minutes. And every single day, you're going to do that to make better progress with this situation. I'm going to see you once a week in person. Okay, watch what this does. So now we're getting off the time for money train and we're bending time. We're seeing the patient less and they're getting better outcomes. And here's why. Because, well, let me ask you this. Do you feel that your patients will get better results if they do more of the work on their own in between seeing you? And the answer is always yes. No matter what it is you're doing, there are things that your clients or patients can be doing on their own, independent of your time with them, that will help them make better progress. So when we talk about hybridized care, I'm talking about they see you in person and they're doing things independent of your time with them. You can give them access to where do you host this curriculum? You can host it very simply in an online portal where you put up a couple videos and exercises or whatever the thing is. They do it very, very simply. I'm not talking about this massive university course. 1 video a week, 1 exercise, 1 action, 1 skill, 1 habit, something, okay? They only do that for the whole week. The next week, they add on top of that a second thing. This is how you create change in humans, not by seeing you. You're not as special as you think you are. And I say that with all the love and respect in the world. The more you realize that you are not needed in your patient's improvements, the freer and the faster you'll be free. Because if everyone relies, if you're the special snowflake, I see, I've had many conversations with practitioners who are like, Yuri, I'm the only one who can do this. I'm like, that's a terrific story. And I wish you all the best because you will never get out of that trap. You're so good that you've put yourself in a cage. If you don't know how to extract your knowledge and get paid for your intellectual property, then you will always be bound by time. You will always be bound by your hands. You will be getting paid for what you do, not what you know. And the most successful practitioners get paid for what they know and the outcomes they produce for their clients or patients, not what they do with their time in person. That is a dead model. And you know that. And what I'm suggesting for you here is you don't open up a new location. You don't hire more people first. You don't even sell products first. The first place you start is by thinking about how do I create more capacity and leverage by turning my knowledge into some type of hybridized curriculum that my clients can follow even when they're not with me. Because here's what this looks like. We call this transformational care, not transactional, which is what most clinics are. And I say that because, listen, I lived in that model for a long time. It is not effective. It is not efficient. It is not helping our clients or patients to the level that it can. So in this case, I'll just refer back to our client, Doug. So these black circles here are, let's say, the sessions in person, okay? Now, 1 session a week instead of 3 sessions a week, we buy back 66% of our time. Can you imagine that? If you're working 60 hours a week right now, this, again, everything else being equal, this would allow you to go from 60 hours a week down to 20 hours a week. Okay, obviously there's other factors, but let's just keep it simple. What would you do with those extra 40 hours a week? You could then have space to bring on more clients, make more revenue, right? You don't need to open up a second location. You could just take those extra hours and chill for a bit, whatever you want to do. But here's the thing. Patient sees you in these black circles and they do the work between, right? So every day they're doing these little things that you've given them on a daily basis. They're making progress on their own. And I call this magic because that's essentially what happens. Every single week you see your patients, it's like they're magically transforming before your eyes. Not because you've done stuff to them with your hands, but because they've done stuff on their own, following the guidance you've given them in this hybridized fashion. And so this is what this is all about. So this is how we start to bend time where you can actually work less and make more. And I'll just mention one thing about this making more thing, because you're thinking maybe, okay, Yuri, if this is 60 hours a week, how do I make more working 20 hours a week? Well, here's the thing. You don't charge by the hour. You charge by the outcome. So let's say right now that you charge let's keep it simple, $200 per session. And this person sees you over 4 sessions in this case. So that would be 4 times 200 equals $800. Okay, it is what it is. But again, what happens if you're sick for a week? Well, you don't get paid and the client doesn't get helped. So what we want to do instead is, if this is the outcome, right? No more frozen shoulder. What is that outcome worth to a patient? That's completely arbitrary, right? Depends on how severe they think about it. But let's just say it's at least $2,000. So it's $2,000 for the outcome. So you charge $2,000 and the person says, how often do I see you? You're like, well, the great news is you don't have to come in 3 times a week. I see you once a week over X number of weeks. And in between that, I'm going to give you very simple things to do on a daily basis that'll take you 5 minutes so you can actually make better progress than if I saw you more often. That means you don't have to jump in your car. You don't have to wait in the waiting room. You don't have to slug it through the winter snow or whatever the situation is. You get better outcomes from the speed and convenience of your own home. And I'm with you every step of the way in a way that actually is meaningful and convenient to you. All of a sudden now, it's not about dollars per hour. It's about dollars for outcome. And then you re-engineer what needs to be true in order for that outcome to happen. And the thing is, it's less about you. It's not about your time. It's about turning your expertise into a leveraged protocol, a program that someone can do independent of their time with you. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about hybridized care. It's trying to be open-minded to the fact that beyond one-on-one in person, there are way more effective ways of helping people. And if this is resonating with you and you like our help, it's probably a link in the description below. You can learn more about our scalable practice system, where we walk you through exactly, how we help practitioners that are typically between 40 to 50K a month, 1 to 2 staff members, but they can't quite scale because everything is reliant on them and they don't really have this stuff in place. If you want to check it out, link is below. But either way, thank you for hanging out with me. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the channel. I've got hundreds of other videos already here and coming your way to help you build a scalable practice that helps more people and, quite honestly, that allows you to enjoy your life in the process. So hopefully you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.